Hey there, Tracy here for Imagine Crafts. In today's video, I am going to be showing you how I created this vintage looking Christmas card using some inks and some embossing powder. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. Okay, so I'm not using a lot here. I've got Versamark ink, I've got VersaFine Clair in Acorn, I've got Memento in Peanut Brittle, I have Delicata in Celestial Copper, and I have Memento in Rhubarb Stock. And I'm going to grab just a piece of paper here. Let's see if I can get these apart. Nope, it's just one piece. Okay, no problem. And I've got here a Snowflake Stencil. And then also I'll be using this stamp set. And I've got a little fan brush. I've got a sticky mat and my stamping platform and some clear embossing powder. I've got a blending brush and I've got a stencil brush. And then as I pull out more things, I'll let you know, and you'll see everything in the description down below. So I'm going to set my paper on this sticky mat here, and I'm going to do an ombre blend, just one color, but going from dark to light. So what I'm doing here is just blending, starting from the corner and then working my way out, and just starting from that same corner every single time and just kind of working further and further out until I get the whole piece covered. So just kind of sticking to the dark parts on that corner and side, and then just filling it out without adding more ink onto my blending brush. And there I've got the look that I want. And next I'm going to grab my stencil and I'm going to stick it down to my sticky mat. And then I'm going to be using the copper here. I'm going to fill in those snowflakes. And they don't show up a whole lot other than the shine down in the darker part, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. So, I'm looking for kind of a mixed media effect here. So I've got a kind of a lighter background, and it goes basically from light to dark the same direction. So we just get those snowflakes all filled in. And, you can do this with any stencil you wanted to. And just I'm hanging on to my stencil there, just kind of making sure it doesn't shift. Because even though it's on that sticky mat, there's not a lot of surface for it to stick to. So I'm just hanging on to it. Once I have that all filled in, I'll pull off the stencil. And there I've got my background pretty much. And you can't really see the shine so much on camera, but it's got a beautiful, beautiful shine to it. And now I'm going to place my background into my mat here, into my stamp platform, and I'm going to grab my stamp. And I want to set it in the corner, and I know I'm going to be trimming a little bit off of this. And I'm going to use the VersaFine Clair in the Acorn. And I'll probably stamp it a couple of times because this is a very large stamp. And it's meant to go in a corner, so that's exactly why I selected it. And it's not necessarily meant to be the focal point. The focal point is actually the sentiment, so you'll see. So just making sure that's good and stamped down, and I can see it really well, and it's very perfect. As always with the VersaFine Clair. Then I'll go ahead and clear off my stamp here. Get it nice and clean. Pull it up and put it away right away. I end up getting my stamps dusty if I don't put them away. Okay, so now that I have all of that done, I want to sprinkle a little water on it. And the way I like to do it is to just spray water onto my mat and then tap my water on with my little fan brush. Because I don't like big chunks of water. I like them small. That's just how I like them. So you do you. If you like big chunks, spray it directly on. And it won't disturb or change the VersaFine Clair. It only does things to the background. So now I'm using my decal trimmer to trim off the edges. You could tear them if you wanted to, if you didn't have a decal trimmer. Or you could leave them straight, but I am trimming it down to 4 by 5 1/4. Now I do want to come around the edges of that, so I'm going to come around with the peanut brittle again. And I'm just going to get the edges here of that panel. Concentrating, on getting more in the corners so that it gives kind of a vignette effect. Okay, we're good with that. That's ready to go. Next up, now you could splatter on there if you wanted to at this point as well, but I don't. And now I want some things to coordinate. So I've grabbed another piece of paper, which is 4¼ by 5, and I'm using the rhubarb stock to go along the edges because I'm going to be stamping my sentiment with this color, and this will ensure that it coordinates perfectly. So I'm just using the ink pad directly to the paper to get that color down. We'll just get that out of the way here and check it, and it looks like I need to go a little bit more right there on that spot, so I'll just pick up my paper. And then that's ready to go. Looking great. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this down, or not. My glue's going to clog on me, so I'm going to grab my tape runner until it runs out of tape. Oops, out of tape. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get this stuck down to that panel, and that's going to go directly onto an A2 card base of a red one. So now I've got another piece of white paper, and I'm going to do my focal point, my sentiment focal point. Because I have a coordinating die, which makes it look like a sign, and you'll see, I'm going to use the Joy. I'm just going to get that laid down in the corner here. See there, making sure that I have room all the way around for my die. And then I'm going to come in with the rhubarb stock. And I'm going to stamp a couple of times just to make sure it's nice and dark. Because this is a dye ink, it can layer. And I want to make sure it's nice and dark, just like the edges there. Then I'll just let that ink sink in for a moment. I'm not going to remove my stamp or my paper, but I am going to clean off my stamp, and I'm going to clean it with a little bit of alcohol followed by a little bit of water. And you want it perfectly clean because the next thing I'm going to grab is my Versamark, and I don't want to get red ink on it for one. And so I'm going to use my Antistatic powder tool and just dust it onto my card there. I'm going to grab my Versamark, and I'll stamp this a couple of times as well. And you'll want to clean it again after using the Versamark because it will lift a little bit of that red ink. You may not be able to see it, but trust me, it does. Because it's, water reactive ink. And so now I'm going to grab my clear embossing powder, and I'm just going to coat this with clear embossing powder, tap off any excess, and then grab my heat tool, make sure it's nice and hot, and then I'll go ahead and heat emboss this. I noticed there in the picture I've got peanut brittle fingers. I wish it was real peanut brittle. So now that that's all done, I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to trim it out first because my cutting machine is only 3½ inches, and so the 4.25, the 4¼ is too wide for it to fit through. But before I do that, I'm not going to put any more ink on my little blending tool. I'm just going to grab the tool by itself and color that in. And that's with the peanut brittle ink. And now I can go ahead and tape down my die, and I will die cut that off camera. Okay, just add the tape. Now that's all cut out. I'm going to take the acorn, and let me grab a little piece of scrap and get it on my little foam tool and just do the very, very edges with the acorn ink. And then I'll grab the peanut brittle ink and come in a little bit deeper just to kind of antique that up. And again, create kind of a vignette. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the water splatter on that as well. And wipe up my water there and then just lift. So that can give me kind of an aged look. And then I'm going to go ahead with the acorn ink and go around the outside edge of my red panel just to kind of make everything cohesive. Pull all those colors together. I'm just making sure that's good and stuck down. Now we're ready to put this card together. So I'm going to grab my card base and I'm going to hold up my panel next to my card base and make sure there's nothing sticking out. If there is, I will trim that off. So I'll just take my trimmer and just trim off a sliver. And this is a top folding card base. And it already has a piece of white inside to write your sentiment. So I want to make sure that fits on there perfectly, and then I'll go ahead and glue it directly down. And off camera, I unclogged my glue because I knew I was going to need it later. So I'm going to open out my card base and then lay down my panel and just make sure my panel's nice and straight on there. That's ready to go. I want to pop up my joy here, so I'm going to use some foam tape for that, but I want something back behind there. So I grabbed this Christmas ribbon here, and I'm going to cut a piece about as long as I want it, trying to get the straight part. It's the only thing about when they wrap ribbon around one of those things is there's a crooked part, and you know, maybe a person doesn't want to get out their iron. Now I'm making a little fishtail by folding it in half and cutting from the folded part down. And let's get different scissors because those just don't like to cut fabric. There we go. So that's going to sit back behind my joy. So once I've decided where I want it, I'm just going to lay down a little bit of glue and just lay that down. And then I'll kind of scooch it around until it looks straight to me or straight adjacent. And it's going to be in the center of where I want my sentiment. And then I'm going to grab some 1-inch foam tape because I'm lazy. And this is a lower profile. You can use any height you want, but for mailing purposes, low profile is the best. I'll just lay that down onto this sentiment, making sure that nothing's kind of overlapping. It's so low profile, sometimes you can't tell. And I'll go ahead and pull the backers off. And then I will just stick that down right where I want it. Commit, and there it is. Only thing left to do is to add some little embellishments. And I've got here these little antique gold flat back pearls, which I think will go perfectly with the kind of vibe of the card. So what I like to do is I like to put my glue down where I'm going to put them. And then put them. So I'm going to do 2 on the top and I'll do 3 on the bottom, giving the, you know, the uneven odd number that tends to be more aesthetically pleasing. And then I'm also using different size pearls, and that's the card, friends. I hope you like it. So if you are not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll get notified every time we upload a new video. And don't forget to like this video. Thanks. Bye-bye.